Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 7 and see how this particular phone holds up in the middle part of 2024. Now, there hasn't really been too much development within this particular phone for the last little bit of time. It's been mostly stagnant for the most part, but it's still a very, very good phone that I love seeing. So let's go and see how it compares or holds up. If you want to pick up this phone or some other phones I'd recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of this particular phone, you're still getting a 4.7-inch IPS panel on the front. It definitely is not like the best looking panel of all time, and it is a pretty basic looking phone for the most part. I would tell you for the most part, if you're buying a phone like this, you're definitely going to be getting devices that maybe don't hold up the best in some ways. But I still think in a lot of different ways, these are still very, very good phones. In some ways, the body doesn't feel that cheap. The panel itself is fine. The Touch ID 2 sensor on the front is still very, very good. And overall, like I said before, I don't really think there's like a lot of things to complain about within this particular phone. And I do feel like if you're going through and purchasing a particular device, this thing really isn't like a terrible option, I would say. Now, the big thing I also want to kind of get out of the way too is that the body of this thing isn't that bad. Lightning port at the bottom, aluminum back with a single camera setup. I still think that's a very, very decent type of build for this type of phone too. And like I mentioned before, I think that's a very, very nice thing going on for this particular phone when it kind of comes down to it. Now, on top of that, with this particular phone, you're also still maintaining some software updates, which is actually still very, very interesting. So it doesn't have like the most amount of software updates of all time, but this thing is still giving you, for the most part, some iOS 15 updates, which is actually pretty crazy. And when you're getting a phone like this, you probably wouldn't expect it to still be kind of performing at these types of levels. And that's actually very, very crazy, because the fact that this thing hasn't really gotten an update in a long period of time, but it's still getting software updates is actually very crazy in my personal opinion. But I will probably tell you my opinion as well. You probably want to get a phone that still has some software updates ahead of it more than this thing. And that is basically what I'm pretty much trying to get out of the way, is that this phone, although it's getting iOS 15 updates, and although it's gotten a couple iOS 15 updates throughout this year, it is still not a phone I would recommend people to buy, because it is somewhat outdated from that software department. So that in and of itself is another very big thing to keep in mind. I would hate for you to go and buy a phone like this if it's already going to be outdated with software, and that is precisely what's going on if you're going through and buying a phone like this. So keep that in mind, but that's just one other thing to kind of keep in mind there too. Now, in terms of the performance, this phone is basically giving you that Apple A10 Fusion chip inside, which again was fairly basic. It really wasn't that great of a performing, it was a good performing phone when it first came out, but it just isn't that great of a performing device anymore. And once again, that's just kind of what ends up happening when you're getting these types of phones. You're just getting devices that really aren't performing at like the greatest levels anymore. And although it's not the biggest deal in the world, it is somewhat of a minor thing, and that could be an annoying thing for some people too. So from that personal side, and also from the battery life side as well, that is kind of the issue that you're getting with this phone, that the battery really isn't that great anymore. And if you're wanting a phone that's still going to be maintaining pretty good levels throughout, the life that you're using it, this is not going to be a great phone for that particular side either. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you is I definitely do think there's better phones for you to go and purchase than this thing. And I do think this thing was a good phone when it first came out. I just probably wouldn't recommend any single person to go and buy a phone like this anymore. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go and buy this phone, and I'd much rather you buy a phone that's still relevant, that's still good, rather than this particular device. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.